Okay, we're live. Okay, this is the Finance and Audit Committee meeting for Tuesday, April 16th, 2024. Teresa, will you take roll call?
Absolutely. Trustee Cook,
Here.
trustee Johnson,
Here.
trustee Pandolfi,
Here.
trustee Wyckoff, trustee Peaks.
Yes.
There's one.
Okay, agenda. Have any changes? Comments? Otherwise, I'd ask for a motion and second. Approve the agenda.
I move for the approval of our agenda.
Second. Ron seconded. Teresa, take the vote.
Trustee Thieves,
Yes.
trustee Pandolfi,
Yes.
trustee Cook,
Yes.
trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
The minutes were posted. Any changes?
I have a question. Right?
Sure.
Well, I just noticed that I'm at the meeting, I'm present for the meeting. I've done other things. I even made the motion, second the motion for approval of the agenda. But that says not present at vote, Robert T. Johnson. So
Okay, I'll
I
fix
just-
that.
If you just say you were here the whole meeting.
I know, I did.
Yeah,
There we
we're.
go.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I just,
Take better notes.
yeah, that's a major issue for you there. But yeah, then right after it, I made a motion. So yeah, I don't know what happened.
Okay, yeah, it's a deal aside of board docs, I will certainly check it out.
The world's not going to really read this, so I get it.
I will.
With that correction, you want to make a motion to,
I move that the minutes of the March 14th meeting be approved.
Teresa?
Trustee Johnson,
I'm here, I would I. Just want to make that.
trustee Cook.
Here. Yes.
Pandolfi,
Yes.
trustee Thieves. Motion carries. Yeah.
All right. Yummy with people walking by.
Almost.
Yeah. So, well, why don't we have Jeremy proceed slowly? Give Yummy a chance to walk in, just talk slower.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jeremy Willett, Chief Financial Officer for the library. Happy to present our financial information through March 31st. We'll start with the first sheet, which should be the balance sheet of governmental funds. Comparing the cash balance for the last fiscal year from July through March was 68.2 million. The current fiscal year is 54.5 million. So that's a reduction in cash investment of 7 million. Not much else to note on the balance sheet, other than at the very bottom, the current year surplus or deficit for the current fiscal year is 7.95 million. You'll note last year was 16.4 million, so we have a drop of about 8.4 million in the difference from revenues and expenditures.
Hold on.
So everyone knows, Michelle's also online.
Further down the page. The last number you gave me was. Sorry, what, there's feedback. Oh, okay. Never mind. Give it to the right color. Oh,
Like,
are you here?
nothing like going life, yeah, no,
Just blow it up, walk in.
That's fashion.
not the best.
All right.
There are no questions. We'll move on to the next sheet. The statement of taxes received.
Wait, I do have a question. The, oh, I think I know the answer. The intercompany or the interfund balance on the capital side is about 17.7 million. And that will probably approach, what, 21 before we're done?
Done with the fiscal year?
No, before we're done. With with what's remaining to be spent on the open projects.
It's kind of hard to predict if no more investments mature before the projects are completed, then that's probably true. I know we have a few maturities at the first part of 2025. I don't believe that will be fully expended by the end of this fiscal year, so we'll be some bleed over.
Well, I have about 3.7 par value maturing.
Yeah. So as those
In
mature,
calendar, that's calendar 2010.
as those mature, we buy down, if you will,
Okay.
that
All right.
due to deferral, so. Moving on to the statement of taxes received. Just a note, this is going to look a little different simply because Jackson County had some computer issues and we did not get the disbursement before the time of this reporting.
Say that again? It didn't-
Jackson County had some computer issues and didn't make their disbursement for March like we normally do. So comparing this year to last year is a little skewed because of that. But overall, the taxes collected through the end of March that we have actually received is 64.39 million compared to last year, which was 6.6 million, about a 6% increase. The budget for this year is 64.5 million. So we've collected 99.78% of the taxes budgeted. Last year, we had collected 95.3, so we're a little bit higher than our collection percentage from the prior year.
So how much of Jackson County showed up in April? Or do we not have it yet?
I haven't had a chance to look at April, so I just know.
Oh, no, you mentioned that part of March that wasn't received, so they haven't made that payment.
Right, but I don't know how much it is because
We're still up.
Are you aware of the financial issue in Jack? Back?
No,
Oh,
go ahead.
well, I don't know all the details. It's allegedly, it doesn't matter who the system was hacked in Jackson County, Jackson County government, and they're slowly opening their offices in 2 weeks. Pretty much so, very slowly opening their offices and operating as per usual. So assessment though was one of the collections the areas that were shut down for a while. So it's going to, it's supposedly a Russian hack. I don't know, I don't know which entity hacked Jackson County.
moving on to the next statement, looking at the general fund.
Sorry. So historically, we're at what'd you say, we're 95? 96?
Well, I don't know about historically, but last year we had collected 95.31% of the budgeted revenue.
So if we're at 99% of the budget, then we're still going to, so we're gonna be over budget.
Yeah.
By the time we're done. Okay.
For instance, fall back, that is true. Looking at the general fund, our revenues are up about 7%, 3.8 million in taxes, another 200,000 in the other categories. On the expenditure side, our payroll and benefit expenses are up about 1.8 million or 7%. Our library materials are up $57,000 or about 1% for the prior year. Our library programming, is up 47%. I'm sorry, 47,000 or about 10% over the prior year. And our library operations are up about 662,000 or 10% over the prior year. But all are within budget.
Do we have projections for the end of the year?
We are currently working on those.
They'll be ready
Ideally, they'll be ready when we.
Preliminary or we're still,
Finance committee.
pardon?
Ideally, they'll be ready when we present the budget to the finance committee next month.
Think we're going to be. We're expensive. I know our revenues are, our expenses gonna be below. Overall.
Overall for the fund, I believe we'll be under our budget, yes.
Okay.
Moving on to the next slide, that is the capital project fund. We'll talk about the capital plan in a minute, but the capital plan expenditures for the through the end of March are 10.87 million. Another 113,000 for the owner's representative agreement and 44,000 for Harvey Jones demolition. So we have total expenditures year to date of just over $11 million. The difference between the revenues, the transfers in, and the expenditures is 815,000.
And I know it's not much, but is Harvey Jones done? Yes.
I know the project's done, but the invoicing is still coming in.
So this isn't this is not the final total.
Right.
Okay.
Moving on to the next slide. There's a slight change in the presentation from how we've presented previously. We've split the transfers in and transfers out. So the transfers in are tied with revenue, the transfers out are tied with expenditures. That'll help with the reconciliation of the columns. I believe this entire report will probably have an overhaul once we write the new budget. Doesn't really make sense to do it now. But once we know what the new budget is, the one thing this report isn't really doing right now is comparing what's happening to budget. So I intend to do that when we know what the new budget is. Give us a little bit more tracking ability to compare to the budget, not just cash balance.
So you need to help when you say two budgets.
To budget, but the budget for the fund isn't on this report.
Okay.
No, it's just, this report looks like it's a cash management report, which isn't bad, but it doesn't really provide any context as to what what the plan was for the year.
All right.
We're just 2 months away from the end of the fiscal year, so it didn't make a lot of sense to change it now. And then the last report is our health insurance fund. So cash is 1.4 million. We've got a current year deficit of about $169,000 difference between what we've collected in revenue and what we spent in expenditures. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong column. That's actually the year-to-date or audited column. Cash at the end of March is 1.79 million, excuse me. And we have a surplus of 215,000. Revenues over expenditures year-to-date, and everything within margin of what the original budget was. Those are all of my comments on the financial report. I'd be happy to answer any questions from the committee.
So just a follow-up item from last month, when we talked about the health plan that Aaron just forwarded to me the whatever information Lockton provided, so I'll have that for next meeting.
Yeah, I think
So, because I just got it, so at least we have it. So capital plan, nothing has changed there.
nothing is out of what we've been sharing. So money is moving from the projection to actual as expenditures come in.
Can you refresh me on, this is on this page, Cody, can you flip that to the capital plan summary? Just so it's on the screen now, keep going, should be the. It's on board docs, I don't know if you have it in your package.
5.5, because
what, I'm running the
I'm not sure
slides.
if it's on the PowerPoint.
It's not on the, it's not on the PowerPoint. It's not on the PowerPoint.
Okay, so on board docs, there's this capital plan summary report, and in the revenue total, there is projected fund balance. Can you refresh me on what the source of that is? 5,186,65?
I mean, it's my understanding that the fund had cash in it when the project started. So this is the allocation of.
This is the original balance.
Yeah.
So Bob, Aaron, any updates? Any surprises?
No, not that I can think of.
Legislature Act, but that's another. Or three.
Okay. And there was the investment schedule, which I looked at that, just FYI, of our about roughly 24 million of investments, 4 million matures in this calendar year, 10 million in 25, and a little over 9 million in 26, and there's one bond in 27. So we have a ways to go, like another 2.5 years before we're out of that predicament. Unless we want to sell our, maybe the yield curve will really get inverted and we can clean it up.
Yeah, okay, sure.
For hyperinflation.
Well, short-term rates aren't going to go down. So,
Well, not usually.
huh?
I don't like usually.
I don't think they're going down. Okay. Anybody else? Michelle, are you still online? Does anybody have any other questions? Oh, there was a cash flow projection update. That's apparently not in your PowerPoint either. It was online,
Yeah, I mean, it's.
but it looked like it took off next year. So I don't know what the value of that is.
Right, well, I removed next year because the amounts don't match what we think the projected budget's gonna be. When I talked with Juan, it sounded like that was a projection actually from 2 years ago. So it seems sort of irrelevant at this point. I believe it makes sense, wait until we know what the budget is. Projection based off the budget. For what Bob says.
All right, anybody have any questions? Ron, Yummy?
No.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to item 6. This is the recommendation for audit services. Just you want to explain the history or do you want me to? I think as far as I understand, Cochran Vic, which merged into Hood 2 years ago.
I believe that's right.
It has done the audit for, I think, the neighborhood of the last 15 years.
Yeah,
Give
when
or
I
take.
spoke with staff, they've bid it out a handful of times over the last number of years, and that firm has won the bid every year.
Right. So do you want to take us through your process here and kind of bring us up to speed with where?
Sure, so we talked about this at the last meeting. If you'd like me to go over that information again, I can.
Yeah, let's just go through the whole.
Okay.
Go through things so everybody knows where we started and how we got to where we are now.
Sure, so we sent out a request for proposal to 9 firms in February. Of those 9 firms, we received a response from KPMG that they were not interested in bidding. And we received a response from Hood and Associate, our current auditor, Orbis and RSM. So our team reviewed those proposals and really with price being the number one consideration, we felt like all three of the firms, you know, had qualifications and they'd be able to do the work. But there was a pretty significant difference in price from the three proposals. And so given the longstanding history, as you mentioned, with Hood and Associates, the fact that from a finance staff perspective, that engagement has worked out pretty well. Our staff is comfortable with their auditing procedures and is, you know, familiar with what they request for the audit. So all of those factors concluded that we would recommend staying with them through this new term.
Did you interview the other two firms?
We didn't interview the firms simply because with the price, you know, being either 10 or 20,000 more than what we're currently paying, we really felt like there wasn't a value.
So we didn't. Okay, so one of the things we talked about was a few months ago. I don't remember if it was December or January or somewhere in there. About about asking for a 3-year agreement. Did we do that?
Well, what we have is a 1-year initial agreement with 4 options to renew for an additional year. If the board and the auditing firm, you know, agree that they want to continue the relationship.
Okay, so I guess I'm trying to understand, because the way I read the responses was that each of the subsequent years is an optional year, which I interpret to mean that we have 1-year agreements with them.
If we decide to honor the option or authorize the option, then we know what the price will be. That's what the purpose of the proposal was, to lock in essentially a price.
Okay, I guess this is a little different than what I was anticipating. Because I thought we were going to ask for a 3-year price, as opposed to what appears to me to be 3 1-year terms. If I'm on their side of the table, having been on that site a long ago, if you're not the incumbent, you have a pretty healthy investment with startup costs on the engagement, and then you hopefully recover those over subsequent years, okay? Whether that's 2, 3, 4, or 5, whatever, depends. So, you know, just from as I look at these, Hood obviously has all the upfront costs that they've incurred. Long ago, they don't have to deal with that. The other two firms do. But I guess my question is, if we didn't talk to them, how do we know whether these bids are negotiable, adjustable? Would they view it differently if they knew they could get a 3-year agreement, 3 or 4-year agreement? Obviously, that's not I don't think that's a formal contract that has penalties in it. It's just an agreement that if things work, then we'll engage them for less than that agreement period. So if we didn't do that, I guess I'm hesitant to at least this is me talking, to make a decision solely on price. Because it depends how you want to look at this. But I want to get feedback from others and see what everybody else is thinking before we proceed.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Other renewals, so I do understand, so that I understand. I see the options to renew in 25, 26, and 27. Is it amount? Is the first year, but the second, third, and fourth option years are guaranteed to be, or?
No, since the amounts were so different, I didn't put all of the options in there. I can certainly get that for you. They are on board docs on all of their attachments.
So on Hood and Associates, then it's not the 40,000, the second year,
Not for the second year, no.
and therefore the following 2 years. I guess so.
I just want to understand your question.
Oh,
So you're asking if, are they committing to these prices?
I wanted to know
Well,
from my head.
in their responses, and did you look these?
No.
Okay, let me just,
So is there a dollar amount for 2025?
all right, so hold on, let me just, oh, I printed these, I didn't print off the whole response. So Hood's response for the initial term is 40,000. It goes up by about 3.75% each of the following years. So 40,000 to 41.5, 43 and 44. Okay. For the single audits, they provided a quote of 4,000. It says for one major program each year. I don't know if we've even had this. Okay. Additional programs require a single audit. The fee for each will be 3,000. Okay. Orbis's response has the initial term 48,750. They have this 5% add-on charge. I'm not a fan of that, but anyway, so that comes out to 51,000, roughly 200. The next year is 53,700, and the third year is 56,400, roughly. So a 5% increase each of those years. Their single audit cost is 8,500 per major program. Again, I never did those things, so I can't tell you what a major versus minor is. RSM response was 60,000, so 50% higher than Hood, and then it goes up by 5% a year. 63, 66, 1, and 69.5. And their initial single audit is 7,000. So there's a big spread between RSM and Hood, which I sort of agree that I would set that. I guess I'm looking at Orbis and Hood and thinking, okay, I'm off about 8,000, maybe, depending on how they handle the fees. But I'm also, I guess I'm of the mind that we should at least talk to them and find out if the fees are negotiable, if a 3-year agreement would change their view, if this, I don't like this 5% add-on. I just want a single flat fee. We ran into this on the, when they did the disbursement work 2 years ago.
So my question, Gordon, is if Hidden Associates, if they're already working out fine, why would we want to just go overboard looking into the other two? Are they not working? I mean, maybe they're not working.
Well,
Or there's some problem.
I don't interact with them. I guess I'm looking at a couple of things. One, the results of the disbursement work raised some questions. Okay. When you have the same auditor, and I can speak from experience, you kind of get into a routine. If you're not changing out the staff and getting some fresh eyeballs on things, it doesn't, I'm not saying that does happen, I'm saying that can happen.
How long have they been doing this work for us?
15 years.
So you think it's time to possibly get fresh eyes?
Before I guess I'm of the view before we make a decision, I don't like making decisions on price.
But just for clarification, this decision that your committee arrived at wasn't based solely on price.
No, it wasn't based solely on price, but because there was such a discrepancy between the prices. And the fact that the working relationship between staff and Hood has been viewed as professional, and, you know, everyone understands and works together well, then there didn't seem to be a lot of desire to try and see if, you know, negotiating with Forbes would get them somewhat closer to what we're already experiencing with Hood. And so that to me, a $10,000 increase in the price is a pretty significant increase for organization of this size. So that's why I honored that recommendation.
Michelle's not online, is she?
I was told she was, but
She's on.
She was in and out, so I don't know if she. Michelle, are you online? I guess I'd like to hear from,
Hey, Cody, can
And
you
everyone's-
verify if Michelle's still on the phones? It's just.
No, she was off about 10 minutes ago.
Thank you.
Gordon, I understand what you're saying about having further discussion with Forbes and RSM. So would you also have further discussion with Hood at the same time so that they're given the same approach scenario and they could change theirs, I suppose, too. If the other two are given the opportunity to change, I guess Hood was also be given an opportunity.
well, I don't know what I would get with Hood because
Well, I don't know.
they're already the lowest price. You know,
Well, they are, but if
I
they,
guess
if they perceive the other two are giving a second chance to offer a contract, why wouldn't Hood be given that same opportunity to?
oh, you mean,
That would just
sorry,
create-
for a multi-year.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, oh, yeah, no, I understand, yes.
And maybe the reason why Hood is lower is because they already know. It's like these other companies, there's a lot of unknown. So Hood already knows and has already been doing it, so they feel comfortable. I mean, I can understand that price difference.
Yeah, well, and there may be a difference in billing rates, I don't know. I know
Mhm.
when Forvis did when they did the disbursement project, they told us that they discounted the rates for organizations like this. I don't know the extent to which they did that in these quotes or not. But it'd at least be nice to know that. And, you know, they could easily say that their bids are firm and if that's where they are, then, you know, we'll go from there. I just know that, you know, a one-year agreement, a one-year agreement is probably viewed differently than a what I'll call a multi-year commitment. And again, it's not a contract, it's a commitment to stay engaged for a period.
I mean, Hood probably already realizes that, you know, they have a good chance of staying engaged with us since they've been with us for this amount of time.
Well,
you
like I
say
said,
maybe the
they've
others
already, there's no startup time for them. They already,
Right,
that's
right.
already done. I mean, they've covered that long ago.
I mean, I'm sort of like, if it's not, you know, the mindset, if it's not broke, you know, don't try to fix it, but maybe it sounds like maybe you think something could be better.
Well, okay, so in the end, we're going to get an audit report. I don't expect it to look much different than what we already get, okay? Because it's dictated by the GASB and
Yeah.
disclosure requirements and you don't do any more than you have to. So it's, that is a check the box type of, I don't want to say it's not important, but it's, you know, it's a requirement and you complete it. And as long as there are no material discrepancies, you take it and you move on. Okay, and that's the whole thing in the audit is, you know, defining what's material. Because they don't, obviously, they don't look at everything, they don't evaluate everything. They do what's necessary to issue an opinion, that's it.
So if I could just add, I don't want to speculate, but all of the, vendors were given the RFP, they were given a chance to ask questions. Both Forbes and RSM sent in a list of questions. None of them were about the price or the contract term. Given the fact that they've all included escalators in their second, third, and fourth optional years, I believe it's reasonable to assume that they've factored that in. I'm not sure that submitting a new RFP and asking them to, what would the difference be between this and if it was a flat 3-year agreement? Given the fact that, we'd have to add that language that we're not subject to anything beyond the current fiscal year for appropriation purposes anyway.
Right.
I just don't see where there would be a significant change in their philosophy. But as I mentioned, none of the firms asked any questions or had any concern with the format of the RFP or the questions that we were asking. Their questions were more about those items that don't show up in the audit report, but would show up in the management letter. So we shared those items with them, and these were the proposals that we got back.
Question. So what's the timeline? So we're required to go back and if the decision is, if we're undecided, we have to go back and negotiate with everyone. So there's a level playing field. What's our drop dead date? Like, when do we absolutely have to make a decision by? And how much time do you think that'll take?
Well, I wasn't really prepared for that, so I don't know off the top of my head. Our fiscal year ends in June. We'll want an auditor engaged by June 30. As to whether or not at, this late date, they still have room within their portfolio to take on our audit. That would be the first question. If we were going to, bring them in for interviews or do any of that type of negotiation, we'd certainly want to get that done as soon as possible.
And then one more thing. So we're talking about going back and renegotiating price, but the criteria used to evaluate it, each of these people wouldn't change. So I'm assuming, unless maybe there's.
That's my assumption.
Then the question is that then you would, in essence, basically be making a decision solely on price and throwing out the criteria used to evaluate each of the 3 companies. At least that's the way it appears to me.
I mean, I guess couldn't you just go back to the companies and say, can you do this for 40,000? Boom.
I don't think that's legal.
Well, that's why I asked.
What is it? So just refresh me, is there? We typically have these by September 30th.
That's right, yeah.
Is that, I don't remember, is that statutory or is that bylaws or which?
I don't know off the top of my head. I would assume that it's statutory.
I think it's statutory because we have to present it to you by September for you to vote on. Because you guys always vote to accept, and I don't know if that's just tradition or if that's.
That's what.
Statute.
I don't know this industry at all. So I don't know what the ethics are or what's expected from their clients, but obviously we are not committed to 2025 contracts, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the ethics of this, and I don't know this industry at all. So what would this industry, are these 3 in particular? How do they perceive the fact that they only end up 1 year? And we don't know that yet until we see the first product. So.
Well, I mean, I don't want to say it's semantics, but it kind of is. Barring some sort of significant reason why we wouldn't want to engage with them again, we'd have to go through another RFP process all over it. It's not like we can just pick and choose. So if we accept a proposal, we're accepting that proposal. We're simply letting them know that, next year isn't a guarantee until we get to that next fiscal year. And that's required by certain statute. You can sign a multi-year agreement, but you have to have this clause in there that says We're only guaranteeing you the current fiscal year.
So year to year.
So in effect, they're all year-to-year agreements.
Oh, yeah, so what I want to
In
know
effect,
is,
They do a decent job. They know that they're gonna have the agreement next year.
well, that's what, do they assume that, okay, if they do a decent job,
And based on their price estimate.
if their second year,
Well, but,
their
okay,
second year,
but okay, so 2 years ago was the end of a 3-year agreement with Hood. Okay, and it was presented last year that because of the timing and other things going on, to just engage Hood for the 1 year. So there is precedent that we have done multi-year arrangements, I'll call it that, okay? So again, I guess and I know there's qualitative factors, but we didn't talk to anybody. So to make a decision solely based on a 8 or 9 page proposal without talking to them and kind of getting some feedback and whether their prices are, I mean, are you telling me that by Missouri statute, I can't negotiate price?
I believe you can negotiate a price once you've selected a vendor. I don't believe that you can negotiate prices during the bid process. That's tantamount to bid rigging.
Pardon?
It's tantamount to bid rigging.
Okay. But we did not formally ask them if their price would be different if they had a 3-year.
No.
So
But
So
Gordon,
just
you
to-
just said that they know they really don't have a 3-year commitment because every year it has to.
well, we can only commit to the 1 year.
Right,
budget,
so
okay, but again, it's like I said, if things work out, you're not going to switch auditors because it's a lot of work.
right,
For
that's
both
why I
sides.
I mean, they would already know that, right?
What?
That they would already know that's the case, that we wouldn't want to switch if they were doing a good job.
I would, yeah, I think so. I think that's. I'm not sure I'm tracking with you, but.
I understand your concern. What I would expect to see in that type of scenario though would be a large upfront cost. Over time, the costs go down as their costs normalize. However, what we see in all 3 proposals is a base cost that escalates every year. So I don't believe that any of the firms are anticipating some sort of load on their business in year 1 that they don't need to.
Well, typically, when you, and again, I'm dating myself back a long time ago, you, at least in my experience, you looked at your invested cost and you looked at your realization, okay? And you said, okay, this is my first year realization, which usually is not real high, okay, not as high as you'd like. But then your realization goes up the following years to where, they, I wouldn't say recover costs, but they, becomes a profitable account. Sure. I don't think any, rarely the CPA firms make in this industry make a profit on the first year job.
No, but and I see a proposal that maybe went up 5% year 2, 3% year 3, et cetera, but we don't. We see one that's going up consistently.
Well, that's also what's happening in cost, because I can tell you the CPA firms I work with, the last 2 years were raising rates 7%, 7 to 9%. Okay. Because again, the industry sort of shot itself in the foot. And they're paying a price for that. It has nothing to do with us, it just has to do with that.
yes,
So,
just, ask for, so if I don't know what we're gonna do a year from now, but if in a year we want to review our situation with whoever that current CPA firm will be, are we at any risk, and none of us know, of fewer CPA firms following up a year from now to start with a new bid? Are we going to be, and I don't know what this, again, I don't know what these folks really do. Do they expect multi-year contracts? Therefore, if they don't get a multi-year, effectively don't get a multi-year contract, are we viewed now as a client that we don't really want, and the industry doesn't really want, because you may only be here for a year?
I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Well, you do get, you send a message by saying price is critical.
I don't know, I just still feel like if the staff thinks that they are happy with Hood and they've been doing a good job for 15 years, maybe we can just stay with them. Unless you, I mean, but unless you have just some instinct, some CPA instinct that is telling us we need to just go into it further. That could be possible.
Ron, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, my thought is that regardless of which of the 9 firms were considered, everyone there has to, before they can get on the audit trail, have to go through a pretty rigorous 5-year academic course, take a miserably hard test to get certified. A whole week, 40 hours of continuing education. On top of that, they're subject to a horrible peer review. So I guess my thought is that, and from experience being a CPA, these are all highly reputable, very well-respected firms. So I guess my point is, bad analogy, but nonetheless, if I order something from Uber, I want to get the product. If it's delivered by a less expensive Ford compared to a Lincoln, and maybe if you're off on a tangent, saying that cost does have some of a factor there, but I guess I'm really ambivalent as to who's picked. So one consideration does flow down to cost.
From my perspective, I don't owe anybody anything on this potential contract. I'm perfectly willing to go into a 1-year, in my mind, a 1-year agreement. And then I will see what happens in 12 months. If I'm happy with whoever it happens to be, fine. If not, I am certainly open to opening the process again.
Okay. So we want to proceed to have a motion. So staff's recommendation is to engage Hood. If I heard you, Bob, or the motion is to engage Hood for the fiscal year ending 24.
Yeah, I just ready to make some motion to that degree. That's exactly correct. It's specifically limited to an auditing agreement for fiscal year ending 2024.
Correct. That's the motion on the table.
And options to renew as
No,
written here or no?
He did not include this.
Well,
This motion. I'm reading it there.
Yeah. Well, amendment. Yeah, this on that lot. In my mind, I'm going to review the first year.
Well, we can't do. Again, we
And
can't
options
commit
to
beyond,
renew.
we can't commit beyond the current, well, what would be the forward budget here.
So we go as what's written up there with options to renew.
Bob, what's your motion? I don't know what to put words in your mouth.
No, I know what I'm going to do. I assuming Frank White's not going to throw me off this board. So I move that Finance and Audit Committee recommend to the full board a contract authorizing the CEO to sign agreements with Hood and Associates for fiscal year ending 2024 and options to renew 2025, 2026, and 2027.
I second.
Any further discussion? Okay, Teresa,
Trustee Whitehall. Trustee Thies,
Sure.
trustee Pandolfi,
Aye.
trustee Cook,
I'm going to abstain.
trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Okay, any other business, Aaron, Jeremy?
On my end.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
If I could just say aye,
Everyone's present in the room, so I can see you.
would say aye, everybody.
Aye.
Aye.